Hello everyone, I'm Noah Van Skyber. We're going to talk about this book, Disquiet, which is my second collection of short stories that came out in 2016 from Fantagraphics Books. First off, beautiful cover designed by Keely McCarthy. She's the designer that I work with on almost all of my books at Fantagraphics, and she's really great. I trust her with everything. All right. So beautiful end papers. I don't mind saying so myself. Illustration based off an old Halloween photo that somebody posted on Tumblr. There's a lot of those kinds of illustrations in this book because I was following a Tumblr at the time, a Tumblr page that was just all vintage Halloween photographs. Table of contents. This is the cover of a record by the band Midlake. It's an indie band that I really liked. Well, I still do really like it. And this is the cover. It was called Van Occupanther. I love that cover. And that album's really great. My my longest, how do I say this? I was in a relationship with this woman, Robin Edwards, a journalist and the singer in a band called Lisa Prank for a long time, and she wrote a foreword to this book because she was around when a lot of this stuff was drawn, and when our relationship ended it was very brutal, and that's where a lot of the stories in this book come from, like this for example, which is about just diving into the breakup of a relationship and the journey you take on your way back to healthy state of mind. So illustration, one of the portrait drawings I was doing at the Center for Cartoon Studies when I was there. I was at the Center for Cartoon Studies as the fellow from 2015 to 2016, and while the visiting artists were doing their talks, I would do these portrait drawings. I just took made a silhouette of my own profile, and then would fill in, do like an illustration in there, and that's where the cover comes from. That's one of those drawings. First story in here is called The Lizard Laughed. It was originally published by Chuck Forsman from Oily Comics, his little publishing imprint that he had for a while. He printed it on yellow paper. This was from 2011, I think. And this is a story that was inspired by my teen years visiting my father in Jemez Springs, New Mexico, after my parents were divorced, and we had lost, by the time I drew this, we didn't really have a relationship anymore, and I had a lot of anger about that. A lot of the stuff that I was drawing around this time is very angry, very dark, and stuff you do when you're in your 20s, eventually grow out of. But this story was really good. I don't mind saying so, and it's being adapted into a short film now that actually looks like it's going pretty well. It's going to be a good film, I think. More information about that at some point. So, another illustration, probably based off the old Halloween photos from that Tumblr. This page, or this drawing, was from Linda Berry's Tumblr. It's good, I like it. It's over. I don't know where this came from. It was just a short story that I was writing a lot of short fiction at the time and drawing them for issues of Blammo. And this was one of them. It wasn't published in Blammo. I think I didn't publish it anywhere except for this book. But it's a story about a breakup, which was something I was dealing with at the time. Illustration. Yeah. Fonte Bukowski illustration. Death of Elijah Lovejoy in color. I showed this on earlier on a different video, but Death of Elijah Lovejoy was a mini comic published by 2D Cloud in 2010, and it was a chapter that was supposed to be in the hypo that had been deleted, So we published it as its own mini comic. There was a lot of stuff in the hypo that was deleted. Here, I colored it using photocopies of the originals and then doing messy ink and colored pencil marks on it. And then what I would do is I scanned in these photocopies and then did like a flat layer of color underneath it. And that's a process I used a lot. I still kind of use sometimes. Now I'm a little bit more sophisticated about it. But back then I was still figuring all that stuff out, and I used that technique on the Fantagraphics books as well. Pretty intense story. Illustration. Here is a drawing of Philip Guston, painter I really like. This was from the cover of Blammo 8.5. And this was an cow's head. It was a, what was it? It was a Russian folktale that I turned into a comic for. It was published as like a news, like in a newspaper, like a news. It was like a newsprint thing that was like, it was actually printed bigger than I had drawn it, which is a scary thing for an artist because you always want your work to be scaled down, not blown up. And it, you know. It's way better scaled down. So here's this story about a woman who runs away and then is visited by a cow's head. It's okay. It's a weird one. One page illustration, or one page illustration, one page portrait, which is actually the best portrait in this book, I think. That's awesome. One page story. Another story. It's also about a breakup. So obviously I was going. Alright. Down in the Hole was a story, the last story that I wrote when I was living in Denver, Colorado. And I did it for an anthology called Broken Frontier. And I don't remember what the theme was anymore, but I really like this story. I like the way it turned out. It's really a weird one. There's mole people in it. Yeah, that's cool. Probably from an old photograph. Thought it was cool. Redrew it. Another portrait. This doesn't have a title, but it was published in a mini comic in black and white. And I put it in this book. And I asked that Fantagraphics not scale it up. I want to keep it small and leave all the negative space around it because I like the way that presents better. So I actually really like this story a lot. It's a Christmas story. Alright. Halloween portrait. Haunted house. This was a story that was going to be in an issue of Blammo that I never published. So I didn't really have anything to do with it, and I just threw it in here. But I like this story. I think it's one of my best ones. It's about a guy who dresses up as Batman and saves the day. So a portrait. Another depressing single-page comic. When You Disappear, which is a dream that I had. It was like I had this like really vivid dream about escaping from prison. It was so weird. It was like a movie, and I woke up and immediately wrote it down in my sketchbook, and it was just like I was given a comic by the universe. It was so great. I wish I'd get more of those, but it's only 2 pages. So next time I have a dream, I hope it's a graphic novel. Punks vs. Lizards was a story in Blammo. This was from Blammo number 8, and I love this comic. This is my favorite Punks vs. Lizards thing I ever did. It's Babe Blake. John Porcellino. Anyway, this is like, you can tell, oh geez, You can tell I was like having like a lot of fun drawing this. Man, I really went to town on this. It's just great. I want to do another one of these pretty soon, I think. So this is the last story. It's called Night Shift. I drew it for an anthology that never came out, so at least I could put it in here. And the thing is, I was experimenting with color. You can see I was doing I was doing like several layers that I would put together in Photoshop, but all the layers were a different colored pencil. So when I put it together, it just got really muddy. It didn't work. And then I was doing like just Photoshop color just for the skin tones. But look at that. Look at what I did. Oh my god. I wish I could recolor this story. What was I thinking? I was just experimenting, you know, but man. Or just, I should have just published it in black and white. Well, hopefully it didn't deter too many people from reading it. I think this is the last portrait in the book. Pretty crazy one. It looks like I was on speed. And about the artist, just a bunch of weird strips put together. They're like auto-bio. It's kind of printed really weird. I was still figuring out how to draw myself, like how I wanted to present myself in my own work. Anyway, here it is, Disquiet. It was republished in Italy as Inquietudini.